Yes, we are giving it other names, the manifesto that will give Kenyans hope, because there is hope for Kenyans. The manifesto that will bring into being the founding vision and dream of our founding fathers, a dream of justice, uhaki, unity, umoja, peace, undugu, liberty, usawa, plenty, utajiri. And all these are joined together at the hip by integrity, uwazi. That's what we are bringing to you this afternoon. We are this afternoon bringing to you a manifesto by which we want, and we shall be saying to you that our presidency, 10 years down the line, we would want to be remembered as the presidency that slayed the dragon of corruption, wastage, mismanagement, and the woofing from the word woof we have found in this nation for the last 59 years. We read in scripture that leadership is shepherding. It is written of a great king known as King David in Psalm 78 and verse 72. And David shepherded Israel as its leader according to the integrity of heart and the skillfulness of his hands. He shepherded. Naye Daudi akailisha ama akaichunga nchi ya Israeli kwa uadilifu wa moyo na kwa ustadi wa mikono yake. We are in this race because for us in Agano, and for me and my running mate, we have lacked shepherdhood for the last 59 years in our nation. We are in this race because about 59 years back in the early 60s, Kenya was in the Commonwealth or at the level with some other nations. And I'll mention nations we keep mentioning: Singapore, South Korea. They were not even better than us. We used to lend them money. But the only difference is that the leaders who took over and subsequent leaders chose the path of shepherding, kulisha, kuchunga, kugawia, uhaki, their nations. It was nothing else. As my father would have said when any of us came, my biological father number one, when any of us came number 2 or 3, they didn't come number 1, he would ask, he wasn't used to commending, that was that generation, he would ask, na yule alikuwa nambari moja, kwani alikuwa na vichwa viwili ama namna gani? The people of Singapore, the leaders who took over, and the leaders who took over South Korea, I would say like my father said, did not have 2 heads. They did not have 2 brains. They made decisions, and decisions that they were not going to eat the food of the sheep. They were not going to steal the food of the poor, the money of the poor, KEMSA, the money of the sick, the money of unemployed youth, national youth. And they were not going kukula nyasi ya kondoo. But they were going to look to preserve and look and take them to green pastures. For 59 years, we have known nothing else but woofing. And that's why, while Singapore and South Korea went this way, Kenya, that's a simple choice. Because consequently, the money that would have used for development, which we shall be submitting to you, and we are just taking the last 20 years, the last 5, 10, 15, 20. In our estimate as a Agano Party, we have our own workings, which we have worked, and we will ask others to challenge us. We know the scarcity of truth in this nation has been unmanageable. We figured out that in the last 20 years, including the last 5 and the last 10, we have lost in this Kenya, it's somewhere, it's not completely lost. Not less than 60 trillion Kenya shillings. And we'll tell you how. As we say, Kenyans, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall be glad and rejoice in it. And as we say, God is good, and all the time, and that is, I welcome you to my Manifesto launch with my running mate, so on behalf of Agano Party. We plead with you and apologize just a little. We really don't need to apologize. We don't feel apologetic about it. That we were not able to take you to Bomas or Kasarani Stadium or KICC. The truth is, we couldn't afford it. But we brought you to where we can afford it. The other truth is, we are not state-sponsored. And we are also not using taxpayers' funds. Nor are we being sponsored by interest groups that want to mess the lives of our youth, instead of thinking of how we first should rehabilitate them. On 12th December 1963, we, the nation of Kenya, gained our independence from colonialists. This is 59 years. Like any other country which obtained its independence then and now, our founding fathers and mothers had great dreams and visions for this country, that Kenya would be a nation of justice, peace, plenty, unity, and liberty. And integrity would tie them all. These English words translate into Kiswahili as uhaki, umoja, undugu, usawa, utajiri, na ukafungwa, yale maneno yakafungwa na neno uwazi ama ukweli. But alas, 59 years after independence, this Kenyan dream remains but a phantom, a hollow dream, a mirage. Let me explain, Kenyans, so that you get it. 59 years after independence, and of independence, we have the following experiences. Very high costs of living, such as we have never experienced before in a nation, or for a nation that has been 59 years old. You can't get it in the nations I've named and others. Such high prices of essential foodstuffs in difficult economic times as we are going through. Such high level of unemployment. And last but not least, such a high external debt, not to mention our internal debt. This state of affairs has led to such hopelessness among its Kenyans, anger, depression, ill health, insecurity, deaths, and such oppression. Cries and sorrows as were experienced by the children of Israel when in captivity in Egypt, or Misri as it then was, as recorded in the biblical book of Exodus chapter 3. How did we get here, and where is here? By own estimates, as presidential candidate and through our party, this is what we think, not what they have been telling us, but we start from where they have been telling us. That in the last 5 years, we Kenyans have lost from corruption, both the hard and soft. We are distinguishing the hard and soft corruption, about Kenya shillings 10 trillion. Our rate of calculation has been 5 billion per day, not 2 billion. That's their figures. Those are the figures that His Excellency the President was told by the people who have been stealing. So take it, start from the premise he was not told the truth. That also must have been corruption that is just within government. We were not told about the other corruptions and the soft corruption. This in 10 years translates to 20 trillion. About, let me use the word about. And even if it's not 10, 20 trillion, you and I don't have to go far to guess for a nation like this that we could have lost as much as that money. This is to corruption. I'm talking about the daily corruption. For us, we are using a rate of 5 billion. You can even use 3. And even if you use 2 trillion, you still find that in the last 10 years, we've lost about 10 trillion. That is payment, one day, pap, of the external or the Chinese debt. One day. One day, lost in one day. 10 trillion, take even their 2 billion. And we are told it's because of that external debt that UNGA is now 200 Kenya shillings. But I'm saying to you that if Kenya was being shepherded by our leaderships, the past and the ones before, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be having that debt. We have also been told when that debt, if it were not for that debt, prices would even be lower. But we are giving you the reasons. Nobody else has been giving you the reasons. If you consider that the same leaders that are spearheading and and alleged to be leading in this competition, whether they are doing so from the front or the middle or the back room, are the same leaders that have been in our government for the last 20 years. We in Agano and with our researchers and our estimations, we also estimate that even in the government before this regime, we could have lost as much money as the same. Some could argue it's speculation, but this is a very wealthy nation. We've got oil, we've got minerals, titanium and others. They speak glowingly about us. We've got potential, we've had it. When they sit at the United Nations, they think of nations in Africa, they think about Kenya. I'm talking to you something close to pocket change, arguing that even in the regime before this one, we could have lost as much as that. I'm not far off the mark. If you agree with me for a moment or you speculate with me, then if it's 20 trillion during this regime, then in the last one, it was 20 regime. And I'll argue my case some more. So that if in the 2 regimes, you agree with me that we are dealing with 2020, that's about 40. What as a nation could we not have done with that? Let's even give the benefit of doubt and say the last 2 regimes, 20 trillion. What could we have not done? I'll tell you what they have said in the international circles about that. Hang on. We'll tell you how we arrived at this estimate. Stashed abroad, which is another big elephant in the room. In or about 2017-2018, it was widely reported by reputable international groups and organizations that wealth Kenyans were hiding abroad, illegally acquired, was more than Kenya shillings 15 trillion. Assuming that's correct, this is another almost twice the amount of the Chinese loan. In 2017-2018 budget statement, the then Treasury Secretary, Henry Rotich, gave Kenyans amnesty to return that money. To date, we have never been told whether that money was ever returned. If in 2017 and 2018 it was 15 trillion, forget what else you get in the social media. You can manipulate, that space is manipulatable, and by big governments. We argue that 5 years from 2017, if it's 15 trillion, right now we could be talking about 20 trillion. You can even have the figures I'm giving you, and you imagine where we would be as a nation. You know, secrets and absence of uwezi and ukweli has been the manner and method of our leaderships. If you take my 20 million, 20 trillion, stashed abroad, 20 trillion, in this regime, 20 trillion in the other, what are you dealing with? You can even have it to 30. Remember also the last 10, 20 years, are the years when our competitors have been in power, are also the years we've had such mega scandals. And just to refresh our memories, KEMSA, National Youth Service, SGR, Goldenberg, Euroboard, Triton, Symmetry, Anglo Leasing, Afia House, Chicken Gate, Fighter Jet, NCPD, Grad Regency, Tuckwell Station, Navy Ship, Mahindra, Maze, Japan scandal, Kidero, helicopter servicing contract, Hustler's jet, Ruaraka land, Karen land, laptop tender, and the list goes on. Kenyans, we in Nagano are saying that our problem, we are where we are because of grand corruption, grand wastage, grand mismanagement. And Kenyans, some who are our competitors and they want to be recycled back, stashing money, which first of all is illegally obtained. But also, even if part of it may not be, if it were here in Kenya and they really love their country, we would not be in the economic mess that we are in. Many years ago, a young man went out into a battlefield and found the warriors of his nation cowering at the sight and sound of a giant enemy who had been terrorizing them for days. Although he had been sent on a different mission, the young man dared to ask why there was no action on the battlefield. When he learned of his army's predicament, he went out on a limb with no prior military training, with no soldier's armor and with no fear. He confronted the giant, armed only with a slingshot and a stone. My namesake dared the Philistine. He promised that he would kill the Philistine and feed his flesh to the birds, and with the first stone from his artillery of 5, my namesake felled the giant. I am saying to Kenyans that my candidature and my manifesto, and our manifesto with my running mate, is a corruption fighting and a return our money candidature into our economy so that we can do catch up and allow, we can at least try to catch a little with the others who, when we got to a place where there are two paths, as a poetess has said, we chose the wrong path, and this is where we are. Today I stand with the same faith, same resources, and the same commitment. My running mate has said what happened. There were not more than 57, we are 59, but today we stand among the 4 proudly. But we say of these 4 candidates, 2 of them have been there before. They have had an opportunity to deal with the situation which we are talking about, but they didn't. In fact, they are named in it. The Goliath of corruption. The other one, who is more of a joker than a leader, is in the intelligentsia. You know, one never retires from the intelligence. No, you don't. I am told by Kenyans, and I fall in that class, they don't even quite understand who he is. But let me not dwell much on him because it's not about personalities. You could even be here and he has been one of the carriers and couriers of the more than 20 trillion Kenyans stashed abroad. I am starting to say that we are different. I am different. And I'll do it differently. I owe nobody allegiance. I owe nobody allegiance. But let me come to the current and just mention a couple of things. A manifesto is a little long. We will not read all of it. Where we are. Right now, Kenya is reading through such high cost of living. And one of the questions we've been asked by Kenyans and you, members of the Fifth Estate, is what are you going to do about it? For us as Kenyans, we are saying the following, that we will not do it the style of those who've been there before. They have promised Kenyans what they will do, but they have not told them where they will get the money from. For us, we started by telling you where our money is from, where our money is. And we are saying when you vote us in and vote us into that leadership, we'll get that money. We'll get that money for you. If you read why that is the state of affairs, that our money is still out there and stealing has been going on with Abaddon the way it has been, you'll be told it's because of lack of goodwill. My running mate and I bring goodwill. My running mate and I bring resolve. My running mate and I are also not standing here to tell you we'll throw this money into that project or this. We are telling you that you and ourselves will decide We'll work together, decide what to do, and start from known to unknown. And my running mate brought it out that Kenya is not lacking in studies. If we had followed the right way, this nation will be 100% irrigated. We have no business or reason 59 years to have our brothers and sisters in parts of Kenya, and it's not only in northern Kenya. But I know also this happens in parts that are said to be endowed agriculturally, with begging bowls, when we have got such rivers, such mountains, and we are on the equator. We will not only want our government to be, we want also to change the form of government and deal with an aspect of governance that is left out and has been left out for the last 59 years. When Abraham Lincoln gave a definition of democracy, he said, it's a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. But we submit to you that this afternoon, while we have seen of the people and for, we have lacked a governance by the people in Kenya, by the people, that aspect of that definition. Our presidency and candidature will make Kenya to be a government by the people. And let me explain. We have already stated that we want to get money that belongs to Kenyans back here, because that money belongs to us. As part of our proposals, and now I'll go to them, I'll go to specifics, bitables, even for the men and women of the media. We are saying in our manifesto a couple of things. First of all, to caution Kenyans, when you have voted on the 9th, and a day or two after the results are given, from the first day of our being in office, actually in our opening speech, we shall officially reduce the pay that's paid by Kenyans by 50%. To enable Kenyans have some money with themselves, be able to meet their expenses, be able to feed themselves, even at the minimum to have 1 meal per day instead of 2 days, as an immediate measure. The other measure we want to do that from that day is we shall waive tax penalties that will have accrued until the day we are sworn. Listen, it's penalties, not repayment of taxes. We need taxes, and our taxes, you'll see what will happen. But penalties up to that day to enable businesses, farmers, starters up, who right now cannot even, people are having to hide when they do their taxable activities. Because KRA needs to meet certain targets to pay a loan, where we know, when we know where the money to pay the 8.2 trillion and some more is. Penalties, we shall waive penalties accrued up to that day. But please note, between now and then, you must still fulfill your obligations. The other thing we shall do thereafter is we are determined to stop the hemorrhage of what was reported as shillings 2 billion, which we are calling 5 billion. And there's another reason why we are calling it 5 billion. You remember our president said to us that matters corruption, his hands were tied. We still submit from where we are. He didn't get the right figures. Work with our figures, 5 billion. We are determined. And how do we propose to do that? The first thing is that within the first 10 days, we shall give a moratorium to anybody who is holding any money they know they got it corruptly. Public money, they got it corruptly. It's been done before, but we shall do it. We are coming with the resolve. Also, any money illegally stashed abroad, return our money back. Failure to that, immediately and before the end of those 30 days, or round about then, we shall institute what we are calling a Truth and Recovery of Stolen Money Commission, which will expose and name and shame. And I'll tell you why we consider this very important. We must talk matters corruption in this nation, Kenyans. We must discuss why are we so corrupt as a nation. At the risk of repetition, people died because they couldn't get medical equipments, because people store money for the sick. And right now, as I talk to you, there's a report somewhere, or rather there are billionaires under report, and we don't know about them. These days, if you watch in interviews, they chide each other. When they meet from the different coalitions, are you not the one? And they name names. I saw it in one of the local stations. It's a joke, no. Are you not the one who took the KEMSA billions? And the other one, are you not the one who took the National Youth Service? Money that was meant for the sick and for the employed. This will be a serious commission. It will not just be for recovery, but recovery will be key. But because we must have a conversation about matters ufisadi. Sisi hatukuzaliwa wezi. And Kenyans showed they have goodwill. We can get rid of corruption in 2002. In South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission helped to have people talk. We need to have a conversation. And we must prick our consciences again to get to know that if it has not for the grand theft, the shepherd, instead of shepherding, eating the food of the sheep, then eating the sheep. And not just eating the sheep. Anakula mbuzi na kamba yake. Hivyo ndivyo wale viongozi tumekuwa nao wamefanya. We should not have been here. Everybody, I'm sure 99.99, because there will always be a black one, people in Singapore are happy. They have services. They don't have hospital problems. They don't have, their hunger is not 200. And I'm just mentioning those two countries by way of example. Let me move on and say that also, we shall introduce unga and food subsidies that because of corruption were thrown out of the window. They used to be there. And let me move to the next one before I make the point I wanted to make. This is a summary which will be immediately available to the press. We shall engage our bilateral partners and people who call themselves friends. And Kenya is a friend of almost every nation. Actually, we don't have enemies. In countries where our money is saved, and the countries is stashed. There are two categories. They are what are called tax havens, and the others non-tax havens. In total, we are dealing with about 50 countries. And we understand, and this was told to us by a former minister who unfortunately passed on, God bless his soul, the late Joseph Nyaga. He wrote about it. And he said those countries are willing to bring the money back, but there's no goodwill. He even tried to propose, having worked here in Kenya and in banks abroad, in the US, in Chicago. I met him as a young man in an American bank that was at International Lifehouse. He'd just come from the US back to the country to serve his nation. He tried even to sponsor a motion for that. And what he wrote himself was that he was struck down about it. A Badirisha government will bring that money back. Our friends are willing. We owe nobody here or out of here any obligation, anything. We will get money for Kenyans back. The next part of my summary will be what happens when we get that money back. and this is where we find it very exciting. We are even asking you to go with us on a journey of dreaming. Let's even assume from the first day, Luxembourg, or Cayman Islands, or Island of Man. You've heard of those names, yeah? Or Dubai is the latest, or Thailand, or United States of America, or the Great Britain. United States and Great Britain are not tax havens, no, but there is also stashing there. And because we got democracy from them, I know they are listening to me. White House is listening. 10 Downing Street is listening. Bring our money back. Bring our money back. Foreign countries where our money is stashed, stop economic genocide on Kenya. We have no wars, no military threats with our neighbors. We are good friends with Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Southern Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania. All we want is our money back. We are not interested in military pacts where we are committing genocide. Kenyans are dying, our foreign partners, bilaterals, countries. Because of that money that is in your country, bring our money back. We develop this country. In addition to that, the other nations like China, bring our money back. Dubai, stop appropriating our money. In some countries, we've told they have come up with laws. If you can't be explained, they appropriate that money in their account. So they are using our money to develop themselves. But assume for a moment it comes back, even if it's not 60 trillion. Let's even deal with 40. My running mate and I are saying, this is the scenario you are looking for. We will in one day pay that foreign debt, 8.2 trillion, and that will even bring the prices, even before we do away with paying. And we are asking Kenyans to get angry and start a campaign of bring our money back. Badilisha. Yes. Bring our money. Stop corruption. Even about the 2 billion, we've never been told whether it stopped or not. But his president, our Excellency the President, was very honest. He said his hands were tied. We are the presidency that will untie, will get those guys who tied his hands. Our beloved president will sort out those guys for you. We'll sort out. And we know it can happen. You can be a leader there and you decide let's buy so much for the poor, there is COVID, and some people down here, we hear names. Today is about our manifesto. What we are looking at, our government is where thereafter, we are looking at a scenario where we will have money enough to fund every economic and sectoral part of our nation. We are looking at being able to give the youth in Kenya a minimum of 1 trillion for starters when our money is back. We are looking at give the women in Kenya a minimum. Note, it's a minimum, because thereafter, any addition will depend on the needs and the scope of what needs to be done. Another minimum of 1 trillion. Forget ile 6,000 na ile bilioni 100 kwa vijana. Hata hawajui, hawana nayo, hawajatuambia itatoka wapi. We are looking at a minimum of 1 trillion to farmers for fertilizer and all that. We are looking at a minimum of 1 trillion towards free education. I'm now into the education sector. We are looking at a minimum of 1 trillion. I've not even done, I moved from 60 to 40. I removed 8, the Chinese one. I remained with 32. That's the one I'm working with, the bishop. That's the one I'm working with. I've not even gone through 10. We are looking at another minimum 1 trillion. Maximum or what's added will depend on what we need to do. You know, for universal health care, hospitals, medicines. We will start going back to Kajo dispensaries the way we used to go, because they were better provided and supplied with medicine. We are looking at a minimum of 1 trillion to small businesses and microfinance. We are looking at a minimum. I'm still dealing with minimums because, again, to climate change, environment. We are looking at a minimum, and you can go on and on. You can, to the judiciary, they've been looking for money. We are looking at a minimum of 1 trillion to be able to give easy loans or grants to the youth, to people for starters. We are looking at a minimum 1 trillion to the creative industry. We must support our creative industry. Talents. We must support the youth, music, acting, like the dramatists who came here, who were with us on Sunday. That's what we are saying. Kenyans, we are not poor. We have the money here with us. And that's what we are promising you. Anything else are fairy stories. What is known as Hekaya Sabunwasi. It is Hekaya. Look at those other manifestos. We are looking at another minimum of 1 trillion towards science and research. We want Kenya to be a cancer center for Africa and the world. And we'll also research into plants. Those that God created, we'll research into them. If another plant known in another language as dongu can be used to treat cancer, we shall research and put framework. But right now, anybody telling you they can plant something in Kenya, bang, it is illegal. Let's start from there. And there is a process. You have to legalize it. You have to seek public participation. You have to do research, and at many fronts, because you remember there are two. I've seen another uncle of mine there. I hadn't seen you. He is a researcher in the area of foods. We have to research. We have also to answer the question why. Well, we'll bring everything that is, but already we have money. Anybody telling you that we need to plant maize to pay whatever, to pay Chinese loan, it's a lie, a white one. And it is so dangerous to vote in somebody who has no regard for processes. We must be a government of processes. The other problem with Kenya has been impunity. Disregard of law and processes. So for us, we follow processes. And we find out what can work and what cannot work. And for us, we are saying we are the only candidature with immediate solutions from the date we are sown, and even how to pay our loan. Anybody else, they have not told us where we shall get it. And finally, 2 more. And these are summary. My document is at pages. We'll give it to the press. For us, 35% to the counties is not enough. For us, in Agano, and for our candidature, we are talking of a minimum of 40% of national cake to the counties. And we are not just devolving that sort of amount. We are very concerned about how it is used. There has been a problem, and this is where the Abraham Lincoln principle comes in. Money is devolved, but still the ordinary mwananchi is not able to make decisions on how it is used. So that the government remains off and for the people, where decisions are made here and not by the people. For us, we shall be suggesting, and it's being worked out by our researcher team, whether already the current framework allows, but we take it, nobody will oppose it, that out of whatever we give to the counties, a minimum of 50 million shillings per annum, that's minimum, should go to the lowest unit without question. It doesn't have to be decided by the county assembly. No, to the lowest unit of the county, which is known as a village council. In other places, it seems almost like amta. And the youth there, together with their parents, the elders, the religious people, the teachers will sit down and decide in this area. For instance, we are in a part of Nairobi where we probably are in the Kilereshwa village. That's the lowest. And decisions are made here. We shall want people to decide at that level how to use, and we are saying at least a minimum of that. But we figure out it will be more. And what that will do is that it will take government, not just money, government to the lowest echelon and unit of Kenyans. Something akin to the Mwaure principle. You ever heard of that? But ours is more improved. And you know what? We know Mwaure is far ahead, shoulder and head above many counties. So for us, it is both pesa mashinani, madaraka mashinani. And that will create employment. It will give confidence. We will get back to cottage industries. And we will move poverty. And Kenyans, it is doable. We intend to do it. Except there is a but. We intend to do it. Let me end this very long document. I've given you a summary. We have matters we have written on health, I've mentioned them, youth, women, security, but I've given you a summary. The writings are there, the principles are there. We are not proposing anything new. Let me add by saying, Kenyans, we have the resolve, we have the determination. We are new. There comes a time in life when you want something new. There comes a time in life when you change even what you are wearing, even if it's not completely wasted. It's also been said by wise people that the only permanent thing that you find in this universe is change. Scripture also talks about God is a God of newness. He makes all things new. Why, Kenyans, would you want to return somebody 59 years after independence who has been there these 5 years, the last 10, who was there in the last 15? In fact, all of them, our competitors, have been there for the last 30, if not 40 years. And look at what they have brought us. We may not have the experience they have, but we wouldn't want their experience. We wouldn't want their experience. We wouldn't want KEMSA, Anglo-Leasing, and that experience. And right now, we can tell you, Kenyans, ni ufara munafanywa, tunafanywa. Ufara. Kufumbo macho. They will not move ahead. They will only excite us for 3-6 months and then return to the status quo. More scandals with greater scales because that's their stock and trade. And even where it comes to dealing with the past, because we intend also to revisit all past scandals and get to the depth of what happened. That will be part of the work of the truth and recovery. They can't go very far. In fact, there is a possibility that two of our competitors, somewhere along the line, maybe they will form a post-election coalition, if not the three. So they cannot change Kenya. They are also in this thing to hide their past. Finally, they are joined at the hip. We want to ask you to vote for us. That's our manifesto in summary. The rest will be serialized. We'll also avail it. My running mate and I, whom I'll invite now to join me here. What we presented to you is not just a pledge, but these are covenants. Madam Ruth Mucheru and I are determined. And we are asking Kenyans, all right? We are asking Kenyans, why don't you? Okay, this one, you can bring this one here.
And I want them to do
Bishop Thomas, can you bring this one here? Give us the mic, one of the mics. Okay.
I will decide here to do this.
And my running mate and I are asking, why don't you try us? You can even just try. Why don't you try something different? There are many things we've done differently. We are God-fearing. We are going under his leadership.
Yes.
We respect spiritual leaders. In fact, there was one more I didn't say. For all church and leaders of other denominations who do civic duty, barring marrying, they will be put in the government scheme. They will be government salaried. They will be remunerated for those subjects. One of our competitors has said that you turn churches into lodgings and boardings. No. For us, we remunerate them. They are co-partners with us. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. As I return. Oh, you want to go for those?
Yes.
What do you want to do?
Kama gume. Gumi juu.